Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, Indiana State Police Public Information Officer for the Indianapolis District. We are back. We thank you for tuning into our reruns these past couple of months, but finally excited to be back in the studio. The Roadshow is brought to you each and every week by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. We want to thank our partners at WIBC and Network Indiana for their help getting us on the air each and every week on Sunday mornings and other times on different stations. Special thanks to Miss Terry Stacy, Matt Hiblin, and Kyle Knezovich for all they do to get us on the radio as well. Yes. And finally, our friend, who's not new anymore, but Sergeant Brian Walker, the PIO from the Fort Wayne Post, has finally come down to meet us in person. So glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
And as always, a regular co-host, I can call him, is First Sergeant Ron Galavez, the Assistant Chief PIO for the State Police out of headquarters.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good.
Brian, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you down here.
It's kind of interesting to have you two because the PIO at Fort Wayne for a long time and his replacement. So
yeah, it's been an interesting year so far.
You're doing great things up there, and we see all the good work you're doing.
Yes, absolutely.
So we are here today to talk about a very important law that is taking effect on July 1st of 2020. And what is that law, Ron?
You know, the law is very simple. It's a hands-free law, and what that essentially means is that as you're operating a motor vehicle down our roadways, you are now prohibited, which means you are no longer allowed to have a cell phone or telecommunications device, as the law says, in your hands while you're moving that vehicle forward. Now, the telecommunication device, people ask, well, what does that mean? Is that just a cell phone? Cell phone is part of it. And we were talking off air a little bit ago. We're talking about PDAs, personal digital devices that kind of preceded some of the technology that we use today.
So does that mean I can't hold my pager anymore?
That means you can't hold your pager anymore. And if you have a pager, that's pretty good because
I see that.
You're right. I would too. But no, technology like that is no longer allowed in our hands. Now, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of consternation because people are under the misunderstanding that, Brian, I can't use my cell phone. I'm being prohibited from using my cell phone, and that's simply not true.
Yeah, so that brings up a great point is, what can you do with your cell phone versus what can't you do? Because the misconception out there is that we're telling people you can't use your phone while you drive.
Right.
And there are still ways you can use your phone.
Absolutely. I mean, the most obvious way is to sync it through Bluetooth to your vehicle's Bluetooth syncing system. Understanding not all vehicles are equipped. There are mounts that you can purchase aftermarket. To mount that, use the phone's internal speaker system. So I think that the abilities for people to use their phone are still going to be out there. We just want to take those. The legislators wanted those removed from drivers' hands so that their attention, because we know how it is. I mean, we've all done it at one point or another. You have something in your hand, and your attention slowly gets put right there as opposed to where it needs to be, 10, 12, 15 seconds ahead of you on the roadway.
Of course. And we've all seen the statistics about, if you're on your cell phone for 5 seconds, it's like driving a football field with your eyes closed.
That's exactly right.
All these things. And,
yes.
And it's dangerous. And we know that it's causing serious and fatal crashes. And that's what the importance of this law is to do everything that we can to preserve and protect the drivers out there. And this is just one. Now, we had a texting law on the books, Brian, but it was very difficult to enforce.
Very difficult to enforce because it's in the moment of seeing somebody driving and working on their phone or whatever they're doing. There was always an issue of, were they texting or were they doing something else?
That's right, because it wasn't illegal to use your phone. It was just illegal to text or email.
Right. An enforceable law, but it was just difficult.
Yeah.
And the other thing to remember, too, is that even though we're going to a hands-free law, I mean, when your attention is on something other than the task at hand of driving and operating your vehicle, your mind is elsewhere, and you're still concentrating on something other than the task at hand of driving. So there are still some issues there that need to be considered.
Yeah, and we're not perfect, and I think we've all probably been on the phone, whether it be hands-free or talking, and you get someone, you're like, wow, how did I get here? Like, you know that you were driving and obviously didn't crash,
right?
But you realize that you lost your focus on what was important, and that was driving.
Absolutely, and so you especially in a metropolitan area like Indianapolis or Fort Wayne, you multiply that times thousands, because if we have done that, imagine how many other people have done that or are currently doing that. So, it makes for a very a potentially dangerous situation on the roadways that we share with other people.
And Brian, we can all close our eyes and really picture fatal crashes that we've been on the scene of. And we've been around a while. You go back in your career 10, 15 years ago, if you pulled up on a fatal crash, one of the first things you're thinking is probably alcohol, drugs, things like that. But now one of the first things that we look for in that investigation is that cell phone.
Right. What was the reason for the distraction or the loss of control? And it's usually a distracted incident.
Yeah.
I mean, crashes don't just happen for no reason. I mean, there's usually a distraction there involved.
So the one thing that we'll be really concentrating on in advance of July 1st and even after, as the law starts rolling out and people are learning about it, one of our primary tasks is going to be education. Enforcement, no doubt. Are we going to be enforcing it? Yes, we will be. But really, we need to be out there educating the general public, the motoring public, on exactly what the law says and what is allowed and what isn't. Because, as sure as my name is Ron, we'll stop somebody come December that has yet to hear about this law going into effect.
Sure.
And
or at least that's what they'll tell us.
Correct. Right. So that's going to be one of the major components that will be incumbent upon us as we get rolling through this.
Now, Ron, let me ask you: is that a valid excuse if we stop somebody in December and they said, "Oh, I didn't know"?
No, I mean,
they could still be ticketed.
Ignorance of the law. I mean, we've talked about that in a number of different things, whether it's speeding, the seatbelt law, things of that nature. But I think we can do ourselves a favor, having even if we're stopping or having a conversation with somebody on the side of the road. Just as a reminder, I'm sure you probably talk on your phone, but can't have it in your hands. Even if it was the stop was for something completely different, a friendly reminder goes a long way.
Now we haven't been given specific guidance from superintendent yet on how he wants to roll this out. But talk to me, Brian, typically about what happens July 1st, a brand new law. Are we going to go out and have a special blitz detail on July 1st and start writing a ton of tickets about this?
Not normally.
Yeah.
I think what you will see, though, is an increased effort at the education side of this, and you'll see a lot more traffic stops predicated on this law to get that word out and to make sure that we're doing our due diligence at in informing the public. We have, leading into this, we've had social media campaigns that have kind of introduced this, and a lot of the comments have been very interesting. We talk about law enforcement is not exempt from this law. We find ourselves being probably experienced and professional multitaskers, but we still are bound by this as well, and we're going to have to adapt to this, and it's going to be a big change for everybody.
And part of that education, too, is, we talked about social media, but also the traditional media. So, we've all had reporters or multimedia journalists sitting in our patrol cars with their microphones and cameras, and that won't be any different. I'm sure the number of ride-along requests and stories from the media in all 14 districts that we have will increase as this not only comes around but gets rolling out. Because again, it's a very important because this is something brand new to Indiana. Again, the law that we have currently is not all-encompassing. And so this is going to be a shock to the system for a lot of people.
And what's interesting about crashes that involve cell phones is oftentimes people want to see the statistics, like show me the numbers. Well, I think our experience tells us that the numbers aren't accurate, because if we have a minor fender bender where somebody rear ends another car because they were on their phone, we rely almost solely on, hey, what did you say happened? What did you say happened? Rarely, if ever, do they say, oh, I was on my phone, I wasn't paying attention, I ran into the back of them.
Right.
So we can't put that they were using their phone when they rear-ended somebody.
Sure. And really those cell phone, what's the word I'm looking for, crash causation factor is primarily used in the most serious types of crashes where we're going out and getting court orders to, if there was a suspicion that may, or again, one of the drivers, said yes, I was using my phone at the time, or somebody within that dynamic, presented that information.
Yep. So what about watching a video on your phone? Like if it's mounted on the dash and I've got a video playing, watching a movie.
Not recommended.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the ideal distracted situation. You're definitely not focusing on the task at hand. And why would we be watching a video or a movie while we're trying to operate our vehicle down the roadway? That's just not safe.
And I also think that would probably fall under the law of having a video screen visible.
Yes.
Because you can't have a DVD player in the front seat or a computer going or anything like that. So I think the combination of laws that can be used to combat distracted driving is what it's going to take to really change the paradigm, because I think this will be a lot like when the seatbelt law started to take effect, when some people did, some people didn't. And now you fast forward to where over 90% seatbelt compliance.
That's right. Yep, absolutely.
So that's where we're going to be. Brian, up in Fort Wayne, you've developed an interesting partnership. Talk a little bit about what programs you have coming up in the Fort Wayne area.
So, and this has happened in the past. We've done other programs with local hospitals that try and put out distracted driving or other don't text and drive.
Right.
With Parkview Hospital was a previous program. But they're going to be putting forth their program for distracted driving and campaign to try and put that the public safety announcements out there to get, again, an educational program that'll try and get that word out. And we partner with other organizations such as our hospitals that have the resources and the attention of the public. We kind of tag along with that and put our name out there with them and get the message out.
So shortly after I first got promoted to the PIO position of Fort Wayne back in 2008, so this would have been maybe 2009, 2010, when Parkview came out with their Don't Text and Drive program. When we partnered, it was coming from a two-prong approach from their trauma services, which is the part of that hospital system that was doing that program, in law enforcement, so that we had two different sides of a story to tell given a certain texting and driving incident.
Which is, we see the trauma at the roadside, and then they deal with the trauma
That's right.
in their emergency rooms. And I think it's a great partnership because of that.
Yeah.
We dealt with the accident here in Union County last Sunday, and it was four fatalities.
Yeah.
And all too often we talk about the issue of distracted driving, but until something tragic happens, it doesn't really hit home for a lot of people. And that one hit home. And it's a shame that we have to take advantage of a situation like that, a tragedy, to bring that message full force to the public to really get our message across for safety.
Yeah, and these fatal crashes, they have a ripple effect. They don't only affect those involved in their immediate families. I mean, the first responders who are on scene, those are images you never forget. You carry those in your heart and in your mind. A community loses somebody, and so every little thing that we can do to prevent that tragedy, I think, is worth the effort.
Yes.
So, what kind of with your programs in Fort Wayne, will you be going to schools and colleges and things like that, or where? How do you do these programs?
So right now, this will be a media campaign.
Okay.
And we'll be doing videos, billboards, those types of platforms to get the message out. And then you'll piggyback off of that with the campaigns out at the businesses, the schools, organizations that are looking for driving information and how to be safe. And we kind of take that message full force from there and put that out.
Great. So you've been tuned into the Indiana State Police Roadshow with First Sergeant Ron Galavez and Sergeant Brian Walker from Fort Wayne. We've been talking about the new Indiana law that's taking effect here really shortly on July 1st, hands-free driving. Essentially, if you're not sure what the law says you can do, it's simple as this. You cannot have a telecommunications device in your hand while you're driving a vehicle. And that includes cell phones, computers, laptops, iPads, PDAs,
right.
pagers. All of those things. So we want to thank our sponsor, the Indiana State Police Alliance, and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. Thank you once again for joining us on the Indiana State Police Roadshow. We will see you next time.